Well, there's seemingly less taste for risk in the market today as traders take profits in the emerging markets. Take a look at the MSCI Developing Market Index. It's a Morgan Stanley Developing Market Index, reflects the trading patterns of 22 different developing countries right now. That index is pulling back today, but as you can see, over the past month, a strong build there. Yesterday closed at an 11th month high. Today, some concerns in Russia weighing on the index overall. Also, some concerns about changes in China from the Chinese Banking Regulatory Commission, putting some weight there. But as you can see, quite a run-up over the past month. So if you are still looking for growth, Africa may be the ultimate frontier emerging market for your portfolio. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton leaves tomorrow for a 7-nation visit to Africa in order to highlight the Obama administration's commitment to make that continent a priority in its foreign policy. What financial opportunities can one find there right now? Joining us from Washington right now is Hurley Doddy. He's Chief Operating Officer of Emerging Capital Partners, private equity firm solely focused on Africa. They've been investing there for over a decade, have investments in 40 different countries there, more than $1 billion at work in Africa. Hurley, obviously with Secretary Clinton going to the continent tomorrow, a lot of talk as well about Africa sort of moving up on the priority list under the Obama administration. What does that mean for those putting money to work in Africa?
Well, I think it is just Africa getting some of the credit it deserves. Africa really is a growth story. It has had a very good, really a very good decade here. The growth in Africa has averaged over 6% a year continent-wide for the last 6 years. Even this year, with the turmoil in world markets, Africa will still grow faster this year than Europe was growing during the boom times.
But what I see here, investment in Africa had among the highest rates of return in the developing world in 2006, 2007. Are they truly insulated from the type of economic downturn, financial concerns that seemingly the rest of the developed world is still really carrying a burden from?
They're not fully insulated in the sense that the world markets are affecting us, but very important in Africa that there's much less debt. There's much less, of course, consumer debt to credit cards, these type of things. The corporations in general just have much less levered balance sheets, and even the governments themselves generally have lower debt loads. So in this environment, these companies have been able to continue to grow and do well, and our portfolio continues to do well.
Okay. Well, we're talking about an entire continent here. Specifically, which countries are you finding true opportunities in? Where is your money perhaps safer or better invested?
Well, it is tough when you're talking about a continent as vast as Africa, but we really do invest all over the continent. We do have active investments in over 40 countries now. We have particular exposure in countries like Nigeria, the largest by population in Africa, but also in Algeria, in the Ivory Coast, in Kenya. So we've really at ECP been able to find opportunity all over the place, and there's really a lot of growth across the continent.
Now, do you look at South Africa as a market itself?
South Africa has not been one of our main focuses, though it is an interesting market. In fact, the growth in general has been higher in the rest of Africa over the last decade than it has in South Africa, just because of the pretty good level developed market there. Exactly. So for us, the supply and demand equation is very important. You've got a lot of growth, a lot of economic activity in Africa. Not too many investors looking at it, and supply and demand is in our favor, and it led to successful investments for us.
And it's been widely reported that the Chinese government, Chinese industry, very much taking real interest in what's happening in Africa right now because of the vast natural resources, demand for infrastructure. Who makes up the majority of the investors there? I mean, how many other American private equity firms like yours are at work right now?
Well, we are certainly one of the largest at ECP. We manage about $1.6 billion. There are a number of other private equity firms in the U.S., also in London and on the continent itself. So the private equity industry is growing and more important. The local investors as well, local pension funds and insurance companies are more active investors. The Chinese, of course, are interested. They see it as not only inputs for their factories, but new growing markets for their products, and also as a interesting destination for investment because it's growing, and that's interesting to investors really around the world, including the Chinese.
And you're putting money to work in Morocco, in telecom. You're looking into real estate as well.
Oh, exactly. I mean, telecom has been a real big growth story in Africa over the last decade. When we started investing a decade ago, there was really 1% telephone penetration in the continent, so 10 million phones. And now it's something 350 million cell phones have been added. And we're going to think that's going to continue. What's going to be important now is fiber optic cable is finally starting to be laid underground. That's going to really lead to a boom.
Thank you so much, Hurley. I'm sorry I have to cut you off. We do have some breaking news that I want to get you to. Hurley Doddy of Emerging Capital speaking to us about Africa.